Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show, and it's time for another Leeds United update. I hope you are all doing great. I'm still on cloud nine. Thank you so much for continuing to support the channel, watching the videos. Some great numbers over the last few days, and I'm really, really appreciative of it. Before we get into today's hot topic, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and hit that notification bell. I know I've been very, very busy of late, but from today, it's probably going to reduce. Taking a couple of days off while I do the walk for Gary Speed in aid of Andy's Man's Club and the Samaritans. Will be walking 92 miles from Wales to Leeds from Thursday right through to Sunday. If you can support me, the link is in the description. If you follow me on social media, I will be putting updates on there. But as for YouTube, the content will be pretty quiet until I get back on Sunday. But, you know, there'll be loads of news to discuss by that point. But today's video is about two fantastic players that we have a real special place in our heart for, in Kalvin Phillips and, of course, Raphinha. What's next? What is going to happen with these two individuals? I was always of the belief that we would lose one this summer, that one being Raphinha. I told you weeks, maybe months ago now, that guy's going to Barcelona. I think that's done. It's more a case of Leeds United agreeing a fee with Barcelona on when, not if. Yeah, he's leaving. I've seen some people on Twitter yesterday make the assumption, oh, look at the pictures in the crowd. He's definitely not going. I think he stays. He's going. I think he's going. Not only just because Raphinha deserves to be playing and fighting for titles and playing Champions League football right now, but also the club will look to use the money brought in from player sales during the summer to flesh out this squad. And as we know, this squad needs it. It is in, I mean, to be honest, this squad is on the treatment table, yeah? And it needs first aid, you know? And that first aid comes in players that cost money. And we know we're not cash rich, but when you've paid 17 million for a player that everyone wants, know that you can sell him. Know that you can sell him. And that's where we are as a football club right now. And look, Jesse Marsh was speaking yesterday to an American outlet, and I'm going to run through some quotes that he mentioned just about player acquisitions. He said, you know, we're having a meeting today. So right now, I don't know if it'll be in the afternoon, evening, or whatever, but him, Victor Radrazani, the rest of the team are all having a meeting, and they're going to be making decisions on transfers. And he said, we'll make those decisions together. And we even have a meeting set up for today and to start to go through everything to really identify who our targets are and find ways to be aggressive and ambitious to put together a really good squad for next year. And that's going to include player sales as well. He said, I think it's very important we make these decisions together to really be unified, as this can be one of the most important parts of putting a team together. It's really important to get that right. And it is right. And we know that we've already signed off on Brendan Harrison. That one's coming in. We know that Leeds United have a squad that needs, you know, as I mentioned, first aid. We need strengthening centre midfielder, maybe looking at Tyler Adams, who I mentioned yesterday, another striker, unnamed Premier League striker. We're all guessing. We're not quite sure who it is yet. And we need covering them full-back areas as well. And maybe that's why we're looking at Calvin Ramsey, which turns out he doesn't just play at right back. He can play across the back line, but we definitely need cover in left back really, because you could argue we could maybe get away with Ayling and Drama, and of course Koch played really well there at the weekend. But in order to fund all that, we do need to sell players as well, right? And Raphinha, as I've mentioned, is expected to move on and expected to play for or move to Barcelona and certainly play at Champions League level. And Barcelona are desperate to add him. The fact that Leeds United have now survived massively helps because that's going to mean we've got the power now, right? The guy's on contract. We've got the power. And it's been reported that Leeds have rejected a £55 million bid already. That's 46 million with 9 million on add-ons. And that's always going to be a low starting point for Barcelona. So it looks like we're going to be able to drive that price up. And that can only be a good thing, right? Like at the end of the day, I was concerned that if we went down, he would go on the cheap. And it looks like that's not going to happen now. You know, he's not going to go cheap. and Leeds United can command a decent fee for Raphinha. What that looks like, I'd love anywhere between 60 to 80 million. 60 to 80 million. I know there's a lot of fans watching this will be like, no, Jack Grealish went for 100. We'll get... No. We have to be a little bit realistic, and I think 60 to 80 million for Raphinha is amazing business, especially when you consider we paid 17 million for this lad. And I hate to break it to anyone that thinks he might stay. I would eat my hat if he stayed. You know, I think he's already agreed personal terms with Barcelona. It's the only move that he wants. Deco, Ronaldinho, we've discussed all this, yeah? He gave us his swan song. He played in that final game. He was amazing. He was one of the better players. He scored on his farewell. He celebrated with the crowd. He kneeled. It was a perfect ending for Raphinha. It was a perfect ending, and he goes with my blessing. He goes with my blessing now. But let's talk about the real elephant in the room. Of course, Kalvin Phillips. There's been a lot of noise about Kalvin, not least from that team from across the Pennines. Then we hear Man City are linked. I've been told Man City are very much on board with it. I was told the deal was agreed. Obviously, I'm not ITK, just hear little bits. Maybe that was on relegation. Because, of course, Leeds get relegated. We were going to lose him, whatever the weather. Yeah. But now that, again, we've survived, if we were to, sell Kalvin, it would be a premium price because we can command that now. But it also gives us power in terms of wanting to get him on a new contract. I'm under no illusions. This will be Willy Won't He for Kalvin throughout the summer. And we'll probably talk about this many, many times. And if he doesn't go this summer, he definitely will next summer. That goes without saying. But I think what we have to take into consideration, yes, Kalvin is a Leeds lad. Yes, he would never move to Manchester United, not ever concerned about that. But I think when Pep Guardiola and Man City come knocking, it's hard to turn that down. Not only for the amount of money that Leeds United will receive, the amount of money he will get, the personnel he will play with, Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, Ruben Dias, Ederson, all best players in their positions across world football, or certainly up there. And Kalvin can play with that. Be managed by the best coach in world football in Pep Guardiola. But also winning trophies. There is a lot to be said about Championship in comparison to Premier Leagues, to FA Cups, to even Carabao Cups. We ain't fighting for these. These are reality. And finally, Champions League. Put yourself in Kalvin's shoes. If he's been approached by Manchester City, there is a realistic possibility, but by this time next year, he could have a Premier League, a World Cup, and a Champions League medal. And that's not, listen, World Cup, okay, maybe, but this is what we're talking about. So we have to be realistic as fans, that if that happens, how can you turn that down? You have to weigh everything up. And further, like, I guess, fuel to the fire that really stoked Kalvin leaving. Like I said, I don't want him to. And I love him. But that's why I can also let go with love, in a sense. Do you know what I mean? I can let go with love. But it was the way that the final game against Brighton went. You know, we seen Raphinha on the pitch. Who was the only other player out on the pitch with him? It was with Kalvin Phillips. All his family came, nieces, nephews, partners, family, everything. No one else did that. And I understand he's a Leeds lad. He's not had an opportunity. But they were taking like dizzy penalties and stuff, having a real whale of a time. We were still in a relegation fight at this point. I'm not condemning him for that. I think it's great to see. But I'm just saying it made me believe, yeah, this guy is saying goodbye. This guy is saying goodbye to us. And, you know, we also have to remember that Man City have lost Fernandinho. He's gone. It makes perfect sense. I always said, like, as a Leeds United fan, never wanted him to go to Man United or Chelsea. I think Declan Rice goes to Chelsea. Manchester United aren't even in the pitch because they're dead. But it would have been Liverpool or City as a Fernandinho or a Henderson replacement. It makes perfect sense for either club, really. Just so happens Fernandinho may be leaving. Look, City are buying a world-class striker in Erling Haaland. They need covering in centre midfield as well. There's even chat that he could play to the right of Rodri, because I know a lot of people will go, oh, well, it's a World Cup year and he's not going to want to play second fiddle to Rodri. Listen, Pep Guardiola rotates. Pep Guardiola is a fantasy Premier League manager's worst nightmare. The guy rotates all the time, yeah? But there's even shouts that he could play to the right of Rodri as opposed to, a direct replacement. But either way, he's going to get game time. Otherwise, they won't be purchasing him. And all this talk about, he might lose his England spot, I don't see it, because Gareth Southgate's very, very loyal. Not least, we need to look at Luke Shaw, Jordan Pickford, Harry Maguire, players that have had dead performances for their football clubs but still kept their England place because they've done it for England. And Kalvin showed in the Euros when we got to the final against Italy that guy was a mainstay. I think there was only John Stones, or maybe he was on par with outfield minutes. Gareth Southgate's not going to go, oh, well, mate, you're on bench at City and you're only playing half the amount of times. You're no longer in my thought process. Come on now, let's be realistic. I don't think that's a viable reason as to why you wouldn't move. Categorically, I want Kalvin to stay. If we were to lose both, I think it would be really, really tough to replace. But in terms of the money that will be generated by these two, and what that would mean in terms of a squad, because people know this squad's done. This squad is done. It definitely needs re-surgery. You know what I mean? We have a new manager. It's a different style to what we got from Bielsa. So we need money to help with that. And these two players would do it. And I would argue as well, and if we're being totally honest, Kalvin Phillips didn't look as good in Jesse's system, preferred narrow formation as opposed to when we play with width. We've seen against Brighton and Brentford on the final day. You could argue they were his best two performances since his return from injury. Why? Because he was playing on his own in a single pivot in front of the back four and then was able to spray balls out wide. In Jesse's preferred system, which we will revert to, as everyone keeps telling me, and I understand we will play narrow and it's very congested. And I don't think, he's great in that role. Remember that he needs to play in a possession-based side. I don't think Leeds United will be that. We look to play in the counter-press. We're feeding off scraps at times. And I just don't think Kalvin is suited to it. Whereas in Pep's side, it would be sweet as a nut. Sweet as a nut. And look, again, categorically, don't want him to leave, but it makes perfect sense in terms of what Kalvin's next move will be. And I think we need to come to terms with that as Leeds United fans and also, be okay with that and say, do you know what, Kalvin, you stayed when you could have gone to Villa. You got us up. You got to England. We're so proud. Yes, you gave us everything. It's prime time in his career now. You're going to be playing Champions League football with Pep. Same with Raphinha. You're going to Barcelona, a club that you adore. You're going to be following in your heroes' footsteps in Ronaldinho. These players are the prime of their life. They're wanted at a premium. Leeds United are going to have to be a selling club. We've spoken about bringing in young players, turning them into, stalwarts and then moving them on until you get to a place where you don't need to do that anymore. And we will find that, Leeds United will strip their best assets over the next coming seasons, like Leicester, like other clubs have to do. Obviously, preferably we keep Kalvin, Raphinha goes, then we move Kalvin on. But I just think it might make sense at this moment in time in terms of where the club's head will be at. And as long as we recruit right, then it'll be okay. If we get recruitment wrong, then we could be in trouble. And that's where they have to weigh it up and say, right, okay, what do we do? Do we allow Kalvin to move now and then we're losing two great players in this side? But as long as recruitment, and they've shown maybe recruitment isn't or hasn't worked well, but maybe that was due to the guy that we had in charge in Marcelo Bielsa. Maybe he was too, it has to be this type of place. Because listen, I have to hold my hands up. Dan James was not a good signing. And that was Bielsa. That was Bielsa. Yeah, maybe, look, Noah Lang could have been a better option. I won't have that he didn't want players, though. Let me just categorically say that. I said that on last night's stream as well. But yeah, look, there's loads to discuss. People will be unhappy about this topic. People will understand it. Everyone has an opinion. And I want to know yours. Put it in the comments. What is next for Raphinha, Kalvin Phillips and Leeds United? I hope you've enjoyed the video, though. I think there's plenty for us to get our teeth into. Like I said, I'll have a couple of days off now, probably back Sunday evening or Monday evening, doing a bit of a live stream once I'm back from my walk. But thank you as always for tuning in. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in and hit that notification bell. And I'll see you in a bit. Peace out. Leeds.